So, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining me for this Facebook Live. This is, I've entitled this one, How to Complain to Your Partner. And just some interesting facts about complaining and how we do that, what we should do, if we should do it. So, my name's Rick Cardwell, Rick Cardwell Counselling. If you've got any questions for me, any comments, anything you need to know, then please message me on Facebook. I'm always happy to ask questions, and it does give me topics for these Facebook Lives as well. So, we all love a good moan. It's one of the things that as human beings we like to do. We like to complain, and some of us like to complain more than others, and that complaining will often drift into our relationships. We like to complain. But before we start to understand about complaining within relationships, what I think it's important we should identify is one thing, and you need to be really honest about this. Do you complain about a lot of things a lot of the time in most situations, work, family, friends, relationships? Are you a complainer? Do you do more than your fair share of complaining? Well, if you are the type of person who complains a lot, then I would advise you to start working on that. And the reason is that when you complain, you put yourself into fight or flight. And because the deeper meaning of complaining is that we are afraid of something, and we're complaining to protect ourselves, to make things right. And that means that we go into fight or flight, and all the chemicals that we use in that fight or flight mode, the adrenaline, cortisol, norepinephrine, all these things that fire around the body, which we use in that process, will actually age us prematurely, so shorten your life basically. So that's a good reason to stop complaining. And also, complaining actually affects the anatomy of the brain, which has the same effect as the symptoms as people that suffer from PTSD. And this, I found this really interesting. What complaining does is it causes your amygdala to enlarge and the hippocampus to shrink. So what that means is your amygdala is the kind of trigger, the hair trigger that's constantly looking out for fear, and that will fire at anything that it thinks we should be afraid of. That will fire, and it is a hair trigger. Well, that enlarges within PTSD, and also within people that complain a lot. So they're more likely to sense fear and to be overreactive to that because of that enlarged amygdala. Now, the hippocampus actually shrinks. And the hippocampus is responsible for responding to the trigger from the amygdala and working out whether or not we should be scared, there's genuine reason to be scared or not. And the shrinking of the hippocampus means that we then become overreactive to things that we perceive as a threat. And that's why people with PTSD tend to be more reactive to fear, more likely to go into shock much easier, and withdraw more. Well, that's the same reaction in a lot of senses as people that complain a lot. So that's worth thinking about. Now, if you think you have let's say a healthy balance of complaining, and you think that your complaining is justified, then should you complain in your relationships? Well, absolutely, damn right, of course you should. So I'm going to give you this black and white. I know relationships are unique and partners are unique, and there's infinite ways of looking at relationships and how people react. But I'm going to give you this black and white because that's straightforward, and this is based on really good research of human behavior over a large sample of people over many years. So when you begin to complain to someone that you're close to, as you may have experienced, and that can end in a number of ways. They can become defensive and turn it back on you. They can agree with you and kind of meekly apologize in the hope that you'll shut up, or they can run away and ignore you, or they can put right what you were complaining about. And there's variations within all of that, as we know. We've all experienced them. But those reactions are determined by the delivery of the complaint. When you complain, ideally, You want a positive outcome to the complaint and an outcome that is best for everybody involved. Now, when women get together, they have a get together, and I always know when my wife's having a girls' night in because 8 bottles of wine appear in the fridge. Well, there is 5 of them, so that makes a lot of sense. When they complain, when women get together and complain, they mirror the mood of those around them and they bounce off each other. And so it perpetuates with a stream of complaint because of that mirroring. And the complaining becomes almost very natural. Now, women complaining together is very, very different from when a man tries to complain. So, sorry, when a woman tries to complain to a man. And the reason for that is the hierarchy. So what I mean by that is when men want to win an argument, or when men want to move themselves up the hierarchy, they are aggressive. So you think about that, for example, in chimpanzees, where the male dominant chimpanzee has got to there by being the most aggressive and by being the most intimidating and physically beating his opponents to get to the top of the hierarchy. And that's a very natural thing for all mammalians to get to the top of the hierarchy, because you get all the harem of women and you get all the best food and the best shelter. So there's a lot going for you if you can get to the top of the hierarchy. And men use aggression, and that's within us, deeply engraved within us. Women are very, very different. Women don't move up the hierarchy scale in the same way as men. What women do, instead of fighting to knock that person down the hierarchy, to raise themselves above it, they will actually try to tear the woman down by bitching, by verbally abusing them, by belittling them, by embarrassing them, by talking about them, by gossip about them. And what that does, instead of them physically moving up the hierarchy as a male would, the woman that's being criticized, torn down, will then move down the hierarchy ladder. So there's a different scaling to the way that men and women communicate when it comes to disagreements and arguments, because of the way we are naturally. So we can never agree on the way that we argue because of what's in us and how we go through an argument, because it's seen as an aggressive thing, really. So there are always ways not to deliver a complaint, and broadly speaking, that is aggressively. If you're going to deliver a complaint aggressively, then the chances are that you're going to get an aggressive response and you're not going to get the result that you want. So what I'm going to tell you is 3 steps to what I really want you to try this next time you've got a complaint, or you want to make a complaint to your partner. And if you want some really good results with this little technique, then try doing this with the kids and see what happens. So I'm going to presume that your relationship is fairly steady, going okay average, and it's not hanging on by a thread, and that things are generally okay. And I want you to try this over the next few days when you want to complain to your partner about something in particular. Okay, so there's 3 parts to this. Okay, now the first part is very, very easy. Always start the complaint with I. Never start a complaint to the person that you're complaining to with you. You never put the rubbish out when I ask you, or you are always leaving your clothes lying around. No. What that will do, that will cause a defensive reaction naturally, and you'll get into an argument. That is not going to resolve anything when you get somebody on the back foot because you're pointing accusations at them. So always start with an I. First part, I. Second part is then to add an emotion. I am annoyed. I am upset. I am angry. And then describe the situation that's bothering you. So I am annoyed that the rubbish hasn't been taken out. I am frustrated and annoyed that your clothes are all over the bedroom. Okay, so you describe yourself and then the situation that you're annoyed about. So the third part to add to this is what you want doing to resolve the problem or the complaint. So I am annoyed that the rubbish hasn't been taken out. I need you to take the rubbish out. Or I am frustrated and annoyed that your clothes are all over the bedroom and need for you to tidy it up now. And by doing this, you're being self reflective and not aggressive. So the mirror into that should be self reflective. And the response that you'll get from your partner will be non aggressive, but self reflective too. That takes the aggressive out, the aggression out of the situation, and it causes a level of communication that prompts a positive reaction from your partner in an ideal world. So have a think about how you are complaining to your partner, what the results are, and try this. And you can let me know how you get on. Give me some comments or some messages, but just let me know how you get on and try it with the kids. Use those 3 techniques with the kids. It's a great way to teach them how to complain themselves, I guess, but it's a great way for you to be able to get your kids to respond in a positive way to complaints rather than just shouting at them and telling them how stupid they are. That never achieves anything. So I hope this has been helpful. Please give me some comments, give me some thumbs up, give me some thumbs down, whatever suits you. If you've got any questions for me, pop them into my personal message on Facebook, or just get to me somehow. I'm always happy to answer those questions, and I will see you for the next Facebook Live tomorrow. So thank you for joining me.